Welcome into the Beat Sessions, your place for all things music. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Let's talk about this new record from The Weeknd, entitled Hurry Up Tomorrow. That was released on January 31st. This is studio album number 6 for Abel Tesfaye under the moniker and his follow-up to 2022's Dawn FM. And here we have it, the final installment of the marquee trilogy that he has spent the last 6 years working on, and it's a doozy. It's 22 songs, clocks in at almost 85 minutes. It is the biggest project that The Weeknd has put out to date. And if it's going to be his swan song, why not? I say go for it. It is a fabulous collection of songs, albeit a little exhausting towards the end, but I think worth everybody's time ultimately. And that's right. If you hadn't heard the news, The Weeknd is at an end. I think that this is a great move. The time and place where he's at in his career and in his personal life. I think ending his career with a trilogy the way that it started back in 2011. It doesn't seem that long ago. He drops the trilogy of mixtapes, House of Balloons, Thursday, Echoes of Silence, laying the foundation for what the Weeknd experience came to be and how it would evolve, how this alter ego of his would grow and develop. And I think there just comes a time and place where an artist develops a persona like this where it no longer serves them well. You can look at Eminem and the death of Slim Shady recently. He's doing the exact same thing, just trying to shed his skin, trying to breathe new life and new identity into his career. It also reminds me of J.D. Salinger, Catcher in the Rye. If you've ever read that book, Holden Caulfield is a character that I found so relatable, and I loved that character as a teenager. But I don't know if any of you have had the same experience with that book. Going back and reading it in my 20s, I got maybe about, I'd say, a quarter of the way through it before I was like, I hate this kid. I don't identify with him anymore. I think he's a whiner, and I'm not going to finish this book, and I'm probably never going to read it again. That's unfortunate, but I think that is where The Weeknd has arrived. I think that's where Abel Tesfaye is with this alter ego. And talking about his sound coming out the gate, it's that sinister hedonistic landscape that he's able to develop in his music. It's so spooky, it's so wicked. And it's the idea of, instead of confronting one's pain, one's shortcomings, one's insecurities with healthy coping mechanisms, we're just going to indulge in copious amounts of drugs and booze and meaningless sex. And what I love about this character is that, we all have that dark, sinister side to ourselves. I think that a lot of people confuse Abel's actual identity with his character, The Weeknd. And again, it's no different than Eminem, or it's no different than any artist that has developed an alter ego to explore their eccentricities and to get all of this angst and all of this frustration out in a healthy manner. The Weeknd talks about that. And what I love is this journey as well, talking about how, and I talk about it a lot on the channel, almost like beating a dead horse back to life. But I think it's important. I think it's important to always provide that reminder that the dark moments in life are what make the light feel so good. And that's something that he's truly fond of. So I love the way that Hurry Up Tomorrow concludes this trilogy that ultimately reflects Dante's Divine Comedy. It's something that I've read quite a bit. I couldn't agree with it more. The idea that After Hours is the stage of hell, Dawn FM is purgatory, and now here we are with Hurry Up Tomorrow, and that is the state of heaven. And that's not to say that there isn't the exploration of dark subject matter on this record. I think that lyrically, though, when it comes to the themes driving this record, Abel's been able to find more closure, more comfort in his own personal shortcomings, in the mistakes that he's made, moving forward into life, and just trying to genuinely be a better human being. We can't undo any of the things that we've done, but we can choose to right the ship. And that's what Hurry Up Tomorrow feels like. There's this urgency too, and I love it. Immediately with Wake Me Up. It's a great opening track. Um, but hurry up tomorrow. The idea of, like, get me to this moment, get me to this place and time where things are okay. I feel like I personally, anybody can identify with this. I'm identifying with it right now. The struggle of buying a house has been real. And I know that eventually I will get to a point where I can refi and, things will be okay. But I knew in the shortcoming that there would be this tough period of time. And there's been quite a few moments where I myself have been like, hurry up tomorrow. So I appreciate that he did take his time a little bit. This is a bittersweet moment, seeing the story of the weekend come to a culmination and come to a close. But it's been a hell of an interesting journey. And again, I think all of us can identify with the angst, with the frustration, with the fear and the self doubt, the self loathing, all these things that can poison the mind, all of these things that can so easily tear down our character, compromise our integrity, and ruin our being. And you have to overcome that. You have to find a way to be the stronger person and to just display that will. I do also appreciate the sonic exploration. This is a record that it sounds like The Weeknd, but there's a lot of fun players on this project. I love the list of guest stars talking about Lana Del Rey on this record, whom he has cited as an influence. I love that he talks about Deftones as an influence. And when you think about the icy landscapes that they create in their music, it makes total sense that a band like that has influenced The Weeknd. Giorgio Moroder is another one. He is an Italian composer, most known for Scarface and Midnight Express, but working with The Weeknd on this project. So I love the addition of him and his contributions. You have great contributions from Travis Scott. You have contributions from, oh my goodness, trying to pull up this information here. I will find it here in just a moment. But yeah, I'm loving working with a number of hip hop artists, keeping that sound driving the record. There are the sounds of R&B and pop that he has explored, especially on the last couple records. I feel like After Hours is an album that really indulged itself in 80s new wave, and Dawn FM again has a big 80s sound, but I think it was more dance and synth pop that record explored. And this new record is has got all these influences and a number of other things driving it. There is jazz at the heart of this. There is a little bit of traditional pop. There are Latin influences, which I love, a little bit of bossa nova, some cumbia. I love Sao Paulo, the single with Anita. She is a great contributor on this record. I love the collaboration on that track with her. It's just a fun exploration of sound that shows that final bit of artistic growth that goes along with the character growth and the closure that comes about with this record. So I won't be any more long-winded than that. I'm excited for the future of Abel Tesfaye, and I think that The Weeknd is an alter ego and a project that has served him incredibly well, and it's explored a lot of different themes, a lot of different components of life that that resonate with us. But it is time to move on. It's time to delve into that next chapter of life, and I like that he's willing to dive in head first. Wake Me Up is your opening track. Bass drum and synths fade in. You got this vocal that's going to lead this synth through this adventurous sci-fi intro, just dark, operatic, and that's a big thing that's driving this record too. Before we get into it, big gothic influenced, big operatic influence. There's a lot of moments where I really feel like he's just upping the action, as far as, whether it's a pop influence, whether the things that I just mentioned. It sounds like The Weeknd hasn't sounded bigger than he has on this record. I love the way that this song Wake Me Up gives way to this like spooky icy synth, and then you just totally pop driven Michael Jackson. Think Thriller. It's not a direct sample, but it is pretty darn close. And and I think it works. I think it's a great homage when you think about the overall influence of Michael Jackson amongst many others on the weekend. It is just a banger to open up this record, and I like the energy. Wake me up. There's that sense of urgency. Hurry up tomorrow. It's like get me there now. I am ready now. And so I think it's a phenomenal way to open this thing up. Cry for Me is your second track. Got these jagged synths with this industrial feel. Excuse me. Snare is going to drive a few bars on this track before it ushers in this futuristic synth. And that's another thing about this record. It does, in a lot of ways, sound very futuristic, especially with the synth work. You got reggaeton meets a little bit of trap, big cinematic icy synths to close in the coda on this track. It's a good one. I Can't Fucking Sing is your third track. It's just a quick vocal interlude, but talking about the personal nature of this record and the intensity with which the Weeknd has worked throughout his career. I mean, being on tour and driving himself to the point where he lost his voice. I mean, there's the potential that this third chapter may not have even happened. It's crazy to think about. But getting a little personal with that track, leading right into Sao Paulo. And if you know about the show that he did down there, selling out, I think in about an hour, he's got a huge fan base down there. And I think that, this is a great little moment as like a comeback from that incident, and I'm glad that he was able to get healthy. Sao Paulo featuring Anita is your fourth track. Synth driven open in the vocal and beat hit together. Minimal electro reggaeton. I like the way that about a minute 40 the song takes a bit of a house inspired turn. You get this bit of a kind of a techno feel, blending with that reggaeton though. That influence is still driving the track. And then the coda is going to shift back to the feeling that was established in the introduction of this song, just kind of coming full circle. Until We're Skin and Bones is your fifth track. Another electronic interlude leading into Baptized in Fear, your sixth track. I love the name of that song. And it is slightly down tempo, elements of 80s R&B and pop that are driving this track. There's this great mood of paranoia that he develops in this song, Cold Icy Landscape, one of his signature moods. And the song is going to pick up in the coda, but this is one where I feel like it dragged just a tiny bit. I liked the energy as it finished. But for me, unfortunately, this was just a tiny bit of a miss on a track run this big. I'm not even going to bother like eliminating songs because 85 minutes, that's 2 full sides of wax, or I should say 4 full sides of wax. So even though there's a couple missteps, couple miscues on this record, I think that Baptized is still overall a solid song. It belongs there. It's the continuity of this thing too from start to finish. I love the way the tracks flow into one another. I mean, this really feels like an album. A lot of thought put into the production, just into the overall mix of this project. The selection of songs and the way they move one after another is very impressive. Open Hearts is your seventh track. Working with driving electric percussion on this, and the vocal melody is going to dominate coming out of the gate on this. Rapidly pulsating synth gives this song a dark edge, but bright synths work in as this track progresses, and it's something that it really highlights what I think the Weeknd started to do better later on in his career, creating that contrast of light and dark instead of just going to the murky depths of the underbelly and keeping us down there. Coming off of Open Hearts, Opening Night is your eighth track. That is a song that's got these twinkly synths, and it's almost this like, it's a synth that sounds like a dial tone on a telephone almost. It's really interesting. Soft drum beat and soft wavy synths are going to move in. Got this echoey voice element that's working on this song that is pretty unique and interesting. It's going to lead into your ninth track, Reflections Laughing, featuring Travis Scott. I love him working on this project. I love him working with The Weeknd. Arpeggiated acoustic guitar, some wind instruments as well, by the sounds of it, to open this thing up. It all fades behind the vocal and the guitar. I really like that. almost kind of like flamenco feel, almost kind of like classic pop feel. But it's a great moment of minimalism on the record. Those wind instruments are going to work back in with the vocal and guitar though. Synths take over for a more futuristic sounding track, and the midpoint it features this interesting recorded message that again getting to the kind of personal side of Abel's work here, because I mean that's a big part of the Weeknd persona. He's been very private in his life, and to have some sound bites like this revealing a little bit of what's going on personally is a unique feature of this record. Your 10th song, Enjoy the Show, is going to feature Future. Another great collaboration, laid back R&B track with a bit of hip hop balladry working in it. Soaring gospel element. I love the way that the vocals combat, or I should say that the music combats like the dark lyrical journey in this song. This is from a lyrical standpoint a pretty edgy track, but the music lightens it up. It provides that brilliant contrast, and again, Future really doing some good work on this track. Giving Up on Me is your 11th song, also featuring Future. Soaring auto-tune vocal over light jazz backdrop. I love the influence of jazz on this record when it happens. Soft piano and drums. Got this electronic beat with this sinister atmosphere that takes hold. It's got this retro, funky, bass-driven turn, and then back to that jazzy piano. This is an interesting journey. I really love Given Up on Me. Definitely one of the more fascinating and interesting compositions on the record. And I would say too, as you get into the back half of this record, more of the songs tend to take on an exploratory, avant-garde nature, so to speak. Back to the track list. I can't wait to get there. We know, Abel. Excuse me. Can't wait to get there. Find my spot. Uplifting synth. It's a bit wavy. Vocal opens up. This is a funky light banger with gospel harmonies. Certainly autobiographical when you look at the lyrics as well. I feel like there's a lot of personal stuff going on there for him, so it makes the song interesting and compelling. Timeless is your 13th track, featuring Playboy Cardi. Pharrell Williams throwing down on that track a little bit as well. I dig that. Timeless has got this tension building synth to open. Vocal ushers in this. It's very like a mellow trap beat. When you consider, how fast the hi-hat can work, maybe call it like low tempo, down tempo trap beat. But I love the way that it plays with synth bursts. And there's also these atmospheric synths that float along. And this song just creates an infectious groove. I mean, it really is very catchy and a highlight as well. Niagara Falls, your 14th track. Synths open with just like this soft horn blasts that are unique. Computerized vocal opens up the beat, and then you get a delicate vocal element from The Weeknd. I really like the vulnerability in his voice on this track. It's driven by hip hop, a little bit of post punk as well, and that's an influence that again I feel like it's there at the foundation. It might not be in your face. It might not be the most prominent influence in his music, but he is a punk kid at heart. And I love that punk, post-punk, that whole pocket of creative musicianship is something that influences the sound. I think it's a big part of what gives it that darker, moody edge. I like the way that the coda is going to take off on a trippy note into synth-driven territory on the song, and then leads seamlessly into Take Me Back to LA, which is it's an interesting sentiment considering the toxicity of that city and especially his own personal experience there. But soft drums and electronic percussion has this mellow 80s influence, maybe even a little bit of like late 70s, that breezy feel. Intermittent bright synth. It's basically like The Weeknd doing yacht rock. But I think that going back to California is a big part of the hurry up tomorrow process, facing those demons and just being ready for the next chapter, and just knowing that anything that's happened previously, you've come to terms with it. You've found some closure, and that what has happened before doesn't matter moving forward. And so I do like the sentiment of that track. 16 is Big Sleep. Got these flickering synths that usher in this classic harmony of la la la's. It gets trippy and dark quick. This is a weird song. Sci-fi synth and vocal become the main focus. gothic and operatic. And this track is the perfect example of what I'm talking about as far as the more avant-garde territory that this record moves into on the back half. Give Me Mercy is your, I should say, Big Sleep features Giorgio Moroder, excuse me, working with that song. And let me see here. Give Me Mercy. There we go. Get back to it. Spacey synths sound like they sound like futuristic horns. They're like, it's just a really interesting synth component. Shifts to pop driven feel. You got this soft bass drum that drives, shaker driven percussive elements that are working in the song. The song really kind of reminds me of Peter Gabriel a lot. Vast array of influences driving the Weeknd sound. It's you certainly can't rule out a guy like Peter Gabriel. Drive is your 18th track. Got these echoey, bouncy synths with more complementary synths that have this, kind of echoey, wavy feel to them. Electronic ballad that's just bathed in synths. This is a really unique and interesting song. The Abyss, track number 19, featuring your girl Lana Del Rey. Got these rolling, twinkling piano, bright pulsating synths that are going to work in. Soft bass drum that builds tension in the song. I really like the way that component works. This song turns into this ominous, mellow trap component as well. It's like anytime that influence is there, I feel like it's really mellowed out, really toned down. And then the coda builds on a big vocal by Lana. It's a really nice way to close out this track. Red Terror is your 20th track. Scattered wavy synth and vocal to open. You get this foreboding synth that builds behind minimal percussion. And this song, even for the moments that there are a little bit of drums, it remains pretty much formless. It's very proggy. And then the synth-driven close is going to have a recitative vocal element to it. Without a Warning is your penultimate track, featuring Giorgio Moroder. Again, beautiful song. I love the moody synths, the bit of electric guitar that's working in on this, simple drums. Another track that stays formless, and I really appreciate that element to it. The beat hits around 2 minutes, though, to give it some structure, and it's going to move between that component and the atmospheric component as the track progresses into Hurry Up Tomorrow, your final song. David Lynch with the writing credit on this. R.I.P. It's terrible to have lost him. He was such a brilliant artist. But his first posthumous writing credit comes on this record with the final track and the self-titled track, Hurry Up Tomorrow. Brilliant way to close this project out. You got these monastic sounding synths. They usher in soft vocal organ style synths as well. Soft beat hits around 2 minutes, but a song that really remains atmospheric. Somber pop-driven moment of reflection, twinkly synths that work in. It's going to interpolate elements of a song in heaven. And I just, I really find it just a phenomenal way to close out this chapter in Abel's life. It's pretty crazy to see the Weeknd come to an end. And even with the tiny few hiccups that are along the way on this project, I would say all 22 songs, it's worth your time. It's worth immersing yourself in this experience. Just make sure you give yourself about an hour and a half. But I'm really excited to get my hands on this. We're going to vinyl please this record for sure. Going to give it an 8.1 out of 10. I think the Weeknd going out at the top of his game. You could definitely argue that his Swan Song is his best collection of music to date. And I'm curious to see what you all think. Throw down in the comments. Let me know if you guys dig this project or not. If you didn't like it, I want to hear all of your opinions. Go ahead and throw down, like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help me blow up this project in 2025. Stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews, and tune into Classic Wax on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We will see you next time on the Beat Sessions.